So you get there, and your first day in Afghanistan is one that it's. I mean, I know you won't forget it, but nobody who reads this book will forget it either. Can you describe that a little? I mean, you are thrown into the meat grinder, and it didn't start. It wasn't like, we're going to get you up to speed here. Take a couple weeks. You're in there day one.
Yeah, and you know how that is, and again, like it's like I had some training, but as an infantry officer, I mean, most of the jobs that my guys had prior to carrying a machine gun in the mountains of Afghanistan was high school shortstop. So these guys aren't, they're high speed, low drag people, like they're tough as nails, but these guys aren't like Green Berets, Special Forces, Navy SEALs type guys. These are just kids, and we get to Afghanistan, and I mean, we land our CH-47, our Chinook helicopter. We land under fire, which is commonplace. I didn't know it at the time, but it's pretty commonplace for our base. But we get off there, and like it hits the fan. Everybody runs like 20 different ways, and it just seemed like I'd never been in a moment like that. And there's so many things going through your mind, but like that first moment where someone's like, where you realize is like, oh my God, like somebody out there that I don't know is trying to kill me for reasons that they don't even know me either. You know what I mean? I remember thinking like it's a really surreal thing. Like these people want me dead, like, and this is real. And we get to the base, and of course we run from the helicopter landing zone, helicopter takes off. We all run for our base. And I mean, I had my NCOs who had already been in Afghanistan before, like knew exactly how to react in moments like that. And whether guys were running to the aid station or to the tactical operations center to help, like everybody seemed like they had a job, but I didn't really know what the hell to do. And I remember desperately looking for a way to help or to be helpful. But it ended up being some young private saying like, hey, sir, if you're not doing anything, like we need an all hands on deck situation. Like we need all the help we can get at the front gate. And I'm like, of course. And I run down there, and all these rockets that have been fired at us, the enemy didn't really let up on those on the firing for a second. We get down to the front gate, and I don't know what to expect, but we show up there, and like our base was separated from the rest of Afghanistan, Jack, by like these like wrought iron bars that you would see in like an American gated community or something. And we get there, and like, you've got our interpreter arguing with, American soldiers and Afghan families. It's just chaos. And as I took a closer look through those bars, I realized like it was like 20 Afghan families carrying broken, bloody bodies of their little kids. And these rockets that the enemy had fired at us there were 107 millimeter rockets that had overshot our base and overshot the bird, but landed in this like little Kalat compound school playground and wounded and hurt a bunch of young Afghan kids. And man, that was like, you talk about culture shock, and you talk about like, it's setting in real quickly, reality setting in real quickly that combat is real and it spares no one. And oftentimes kids are the ones that are caught in the middle of it, and boy, is that horrible. And so I just tried to help as best I could, grabbed a little girl and along with a bunch of other soldiers at the front gate that day, and tried to run her to our aid station where a bunch of our medics and our company doc was there trying to help administer first aid. And, ended up getting this little girl to the aid station a little bit too late, and she died before I could even get her there. And on my first day in Afghanistan, I just remember like, like you walk into an aid station like that, Jack, and it's like, soldiers and you've been in situations like this. I say soldiers because I was in the Army, but they're like unbelievable. They're remarkable. Like when traumatic moments happen, it's like you walk in there, there's like 10 of these tables that are like stainless steel tables, right? And they're like, everyone is laser focused on trying to save these kids' lives. And so when we all realized that the little one that I was carrying hadn't made it, it was just like I had to scoop her up off the table, make room for the next little kid, and I just walked her out to her father. And my first day in Afghanistan, as a really young college kid, the combat leader, like first day in Afghanistan, I'm walking the dead body of a little girl back to her father, who her father just like looked at me and like just stoically nodded his head, like, hey, thank you for trying. And then he turned around and walked away. And that really stuck with me for for a lot of reasons, that moment, obviously, because it was so traumatic. But that, in a nutshell, is what Afghanistan is like. And I personally believe that like that moment was when I really felt a shift inside of my heart of, you're really changing from an insulated American citizen to warrior, or somebody that can experience moments like that one and endure. Not necessarily have all the existential answers that come with that, right? Like, how do you wrap your mind around that? You don't. But you learn to like lock it away, compartmentalize, say whatever you want, but just focus on the mission. And what I couldn't get off of my mind, Jack, was like, how am I supposed to lead these men, right? How am I supposed to lead these men and experience moments like that and endure, you know? But you just figure it out because you have to. But
You have to.
But that stuff changes you, man, you know?
It does. And like thinking back on it, like the kids that's the part when I look back, like the parts that stay with you are like the kids crying and, on target or whatever, and when you talk about it in your book too, like giving candy, like we want to do that as Americans, we want to give candy. We did that too. And, when I'm there in 2003, we give candies and all that stuff. And then you see, like you had that very similar experience. You see the boys come out, you give them to the girls, and then girls get beat up for that candy. And then you're like, geez. And for you, the end of that chapter, I mean, it is so emotional. Like it's a very emotional read. So when you could take that uniform that's covered in blood and you walk down to a burn pit and you burn your uniform, first day in Afghanistan, like that was just so telling and so powerful.